It's too bad that working on my car didn't burn more calories, because after Thanksgiving feast last week, I could use some help. Either way, I'm home now. It's time to get back to work on the car. Welcome back to GB9 Garage. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are behind the driver's seat of the car. This is the whole neutral, park override basically for the car. So you would have to just lift up the seat, and you can get in here and grab this yellow handle. If you see under here, yellow handle, you pull it up, and that would pull that cable then and put the car into a neutral override position. And so what's happened is that this shield that goes over the cable has been stretched when I pulled them apart. So I need to see if I can get this cable shroud, and it's on the inside or underneath the car where it's stretched. But if I can see if I can kind of put that back together and therefore shorten that, which will allow the cable then to be back into the non-overrided position. So either way, I can either fix this or replace it. No matter which way I go, I have to get this cable out. I think so. I'm going to take this cable out and then see if I can't fix it. So just messing around with that cable behind the driver's seat a little bit, pulling it, and I'll show you that in a second because it's actually interesting, a little different than I kind of originally thought, but I had some questions. So anyway, I see how the thing actually works now, and I'll show you that. But in messing around with it, I think I actually might have pulled the sheath of that cable in a little bit more, and actually it's getting really close. So let me show you real quick. So here's the other end of the cable, and this is the transmission park neutral override. So you pull that cable and it pulls this back into what is the neutral position, and so it needs to come forward in order to be in park. But this was pulled way back before I started messing around with this. So I don't know. I think I might be able to do this without taking the cable all the way out. What I'm going to do is remove the exhaust pipe from that side of the transmission so I can get my hand up where this cable goes through the body and into that where that well is, where the lever is, and see if I can't sort of push that piece back towards the firewall, for lack of a better term, right now, and see if I can't shorten that thing out a little bit. So I'm going to see if I can do that without having to remove the whole cable, because it's quite the fiasco to get it out from behind that driver's seat. And I'd rather not have to take it out if I don't have to. So let's see if we can get that done. Okay, so the way this neutral park override works, this plate sits on here like this. You have to remove these two screws. So you got to remove your seat cushion, remove the plate that goes over the seat cushion, the plate that goes here, just like on the battery side. Then you remove this plate here with these two screws in it, set that aside, and it's got a cable on it so you can't lose it. And then you pull this yellow lever up until it basically overrides park in neutral. Then you push the little black button to let it back down when you're ready to let it back down. And so what I think has happened is that I've stretched out the cable sheath that goes around that cable that pulls that into neutral, therefore shortening how much distance there is from the mount next to the transmission to the actual lever on the transmission. So it's basically pulling it into the neutral override all the time. So now what I'm trying to do is get this cable out of the car. There's a really tight grommet that goes through the body out into the tunnel out there. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't do something that's going to be hard to redo or undo when I put the new cable or this repaired one back. It's very tight to fit through here. It's got this big nut section here that screws in to the plate part right here, and so all that is going to be very tight to fit through that grommet. So I'm trying to see how this all comes apart. Okay, so after messing with that quite a bit, I think that getting that cable through that body panel, I probably can get it out, but I'm really worried that trying to get the new one back through that little hole with that grommet is going to be very difficult. I think if I take out the rest of this X pipe, or it's not an X pipe, but the rest of the exhaust manifold part here from the engine back to here, maybe I can get my hand in there a little better and mess with it. I'm not convinced. So I think I would be in trouble there. So what we're looking at here is that the sheath for the cable that pulls this thing into the neutral position is been stretched, so it's too long, and then therefore it's making the cable travel too far to this mounting point, and therefore it's short when it gets here, and then it pulls it into neutral when it's just mounted in its normal position. I think I have an idea of how to jimmy rig this situation to solve this problem without having to replace this whole cable. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so you see now this is not hooked up at the other end, so it's very loose right now. But I believe that by moving this mount up to the sort of front screw hole being the back position, I will therefore bring this mount forward. It will let this have enough slack to leave this thing into the active position. Now that's obviously is not a good solution to have this flopping around. So I think I'm going to get a little bracket that goes from here to the back, and then put a bolt through here and then a screw there. So it'll still mount in two places against the transmission. So this should be nice and secure. The cable should therefore have the slack. And there's nothing wrong with the cable, the actual cable, which is the functioning part of this whole thing. So then it should work. And so I'm just going to remount this forward like this, and put this cable back together on the inside of the car and test and see how that works.
Okay, so I messed around with that for a little bit. I created a little bracket. I've got everything hooked up back in the car. And let me show you what I got right here.
Okay, so this is now, okay, so here's our bracket that mounts to the transmission. Normally, it would mount in these two holes here, would go into these two holes here. I created just a straight bracket here and shifted it forward so that now I've got a nut and bolt here to hold it forward, and then I'll put it in here and here. So now when I put this into the cable goes, or when I put the cable in where it goes here, there. All right, and now when I put the bracket on, I go to the holes. Now it lines up, and this has got a little bit of play in it, and I'm not pulling the transmission neutral override. So let me get that bolted up, and then one way we're gonna be able to test this is to go put the key back in it, and it should then show in park. So there it is, fully mounted. Bracket is there. Now it's mounted a little farther forward, which should allow a little more play in the cable. Now it's not super loose, but I think it's pretty much to spec. It's just supposed to be a little loose. It is definitely not putting any tension on the neutral override lever. So let's see, I can pull that over there. And so it's, it's not pulling on it at all. It's loose in here. So that's the function there. The big test now is to put the key in the car and then make sure that it shows in park. And then when we pull that lever, it should go into neutral through the neutral override. So let's test that and see what happens.
I know the lighting in here is pretty bad. The sun is shining right into my garage through the windshield. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the key in there and hope that this thing shows up in park rather than neutral. So let's see what happens. Boom, park it is. So there we go. My hack worked. All right, so then the next test would be to pull the neutral override and make sure that the car is now in neutral. Again, the lighting is horrible. Let me see if we can get rid of lighting. And there it is. The car is now in neutral. So the lever is working. And yeah, there you go. So success. So yeah, it looks like my little bracket hack worked for this cable fix. That's what did I say, 180 or 160 bucks that the Scuderia wanted to get that cable to me. Nothing really against Scuderia. They've been great to me, and they get me the parts that I need. But I really didn't want to spend even $160, let's call it that, on a cable that I didn't really want. And then the reality is, I should never actually need it. It's a cable that you're only going to use in a pretty serious emergency where your car is down and you got to put it in neutral to get it towed off. So there you go. In golf, I'm not a very good golfer, so I tend to be a pretty good scrambler to make sure that I can actually play the game. I think it's true here as well. I'm not a great mechanic, so I have to be a good scrambler. So I don't know. Am I a hack or am I a good scrambler? You guys tell me. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. Hit the like button if you're so inclined. And we will probably cut it a little short today. I got to go put some Christmas lights up and hopefully get to work on the car again next weekend. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. See you next time.
Since we're here.
never gets old.